Directed by Pratyusha Gupta and Mythili Prakash, Mollika explores dance and the cycles of time through 3 generations of women from the same family. Starring dancer and choreographer Mythili Prakash, alongside her mother, Viji Prakash, and her daughter, Rumi Prakash-Gollapudi, the film is underscored by music arranged and performed by Sushma Soma. Mollika, which means jasmine flower, is inspired by a song by Rabindranath Tagore about the fragrant jasmine flower that blooms at night and wilts by morning. Mythili describes the film as using this metaphor to reflect on the transience of time through life cycles, the aging body, and intergenerational relationships. Using Bharatanatyam, one of the oldest classical dance forms of India, the movements within the piece are elegant, graceful, playful, and precise. Their whole bodies tell a story. Arms sweep gracefully through the air, fingers make neat shapes, sometimes miming objects or gesturing as they interact with imaginary people. The precision of each movement is so exacting and the emotion behind each action so felt by the performers that the storytelling is clear, engaging, and moving. There is a dreamlike quality to the film, enhanced by slowing down the footage at points and constantly switching between locations and dancers. Sometimes the trio dance together, moving in unison. Sometimes they dance alone, each repeating the same sequence of movements and interpreting it through their bodies. All 3 dancers wear traditional Indian dress. Mythili is an Indian American woman. She wears a cropped red tunic top with matching trousers and a brown and gold sari draped over one shoulder and around her torso. Mythili's daughter Rumi, who is a young Indian American girl, wears a long-sleeved, knee-length peach-coloured tunic dress and matching trousers. Mythili's mother Viji, who is an elderly Indian woman, wears a floor-length flowing cream dress with a matching sari draped around her body. They all dance barefoot and wear their long dark hair either pulled back in a low ponytail or bun, or hanging loose around their shoulders, and have a red bindi in the space between their eyebrows. Various locations are used throughout the film, including a white-walled room lined with curved alcoves with dark wooden floors and 2 standing mirrors on one side. A veranda space just outside this white room, and a courtyard space consisting of a concrete area surrounded by trees and bushes. For the most part, Viji is in the white room, Rumi is on the veranda, and Mythili is in the courtyard. In her own words, Mythili states that this film explores the fragility of change, growth, and the aging dancing body. The piece is as much about our personal relationships as individuals to our own sense of self, body, and dance, as it is about intergenerational relationships and lineage, learning, or transference of classical art. Like the Mollika flower experiencing the bloom and wilt, we experience the ever-changing cycles of time. A white-walled room with doors leading to a garden. A shot of a veranda, accompanied by the sounds of a dance rehearsal. Mythili, Viji and Rumi dance together in the white room. SADLER'S digital stage presents Mollika. Rumi carefully wraps the stem of a jasmine flower. Mythili looks in the mirror as she ties her hair back. When Mythili steps away from the mirror, Viji's reflection is seen as she sits in the corner of the white room. In a courtyard, Mythili curves her arms to the side and holds them in the air as though embracing someone beside her. Elsewhere, Viji and Rumi sit alone, lost in thought. In the courtyard, Mythili glances down at her imaginary guest and then rushes to one side of the space and mimes clearing leaves off an imaginary bench. With great delicacy, Mythili mimes guiding her imaginary guest over towards the bench, She arches back slightly as she helps the guest to sit. Mythili reaches one arm up. Elsewhere, Viji reaches up too. Viji mimes picking a flower and smiles at her reflection in the mirror as she mimes placing the flower behind her ear. On the veranda, Rumi kneels as she mimes carefully placing something on the floor. With hands clasped, she smiles down at it. Viji smiles gently as she flicks through a photo album. Now Viji is with her daughter and granddaughter. They watch intently as Viji demonstrates some gestures, gracefully sweeping her arms through the air. On the veranda, Rumi mimes reaching up to pick some jasmine flowers from a tree, and then dropping to her knees to mime placing them on the ground in front of her. In the courtyard, Mythili does the same actions. She gathers the imaginary jasmine flowers into a flower crown and then presents them to her imaginary guest to smell. Mythili turns to face the other way to become the guest. She mimes taking the flowers, smelling them, giving an approving smile, and then placing the flower crown on the head of the host. Mythili, as the host, beams with pride. Becoming the guest again, Mythili mimes lovingly cupping the chin of their host. In the white room, Viji opens her arms wide and arches up to the ceiling as she beams joyfully. Now joined by Mythili and Rumi, they dance together, stamping their feet to the beat as they sweep their arms through the air in unison. In the courtyard, Mythili mimes beaming up at the sun, and then she claps to encourage someone sleeping to wake up. In another part of the courtyard, Rumi stares up at the beams of sunlight shining through the leaves of the trees. Mythili mimes holding the hand of a child as she circles around the space. Stamping her feet on the ground, Mythili's face is etched with concern as she clasps her hands together and slowly raises her arms in the air. A shot of Mythili's feet stamping the ground as Rumi's dangling feet gently tap the side of a wall that she's sitting on. Mythili suddenly reaches out as though trying to steady someone. In the white room, using her hand as a mirror, Viji pretends to stare at her reflection. Her smile fades, and she stares down at her hands as though appraising them. Viji now looks up and stares at her actual reflection in the real mirror. Gently she touches her cheek. A sad smile crosses her lips. In the courtyard, Mythili's face is full of concern as she mimes supporting an imaginary person and gently guiding them to a seat. A shot of Viji rubbing her ankles as though soothing them. In the courtyard, Mythili mimes picking a jasmine flower from a tree. She glances down at the imaginary seated person. On the veranda, Rumi makes a gentle fist with one hand, her index finger curved as though the beak of a bird. She strokes this handbird as she smiles down at it. Rumi places the bird on the ground. In the courtyard, Mythili picks up her handbird and places it on her other palm. Her curved index finger taps at her palm as though the bird is pecking at food. Mythili holds the bird close to her cheek. On the veranda, Rumi does the same action. Back in the courtyard, Mythili looks up to the sky, then holds the handbird in the air as though trying to encourage it to fly away. In the white room, Viji, Rumi and Mythili all mime setting the bird free and watching it fly. In the courtyard, Mythili's torso is arched back, her arms curve through the air as she spins on the spot. Her spin becomes more expansive and she begins to circle more of the space. In the room, Rumi joins Mythili in circling around Viji. Spinning on the spot, Viji beams as Rumi and Mythili continue to circle her while sweeping their arms through the air. Close-up images of Viji's delicately wrinkled hands, her feet and her face. Sitting to one side, Viji taps sticks together as she watches Mythili dance in the white room. In separate locations, Viji and Mythili mime picking a jasmine flower from a tree. In the courtyard, Mythili mimes letting the flower fall out of her hand and onto the ground. Mythili bends down to pick up the imaginary flower. Holding it gently between her fingers, she mimes smelling it, and then with a soft smile, she mimes placing it into her hair. The screen fades to black.